I'm Mike.
And I'm Adam.
And this is Stuff and Waffle. Two friends talking about stuff, and often as not, waffling with frequent reference to Bond cars. I've been out walking again.
Steady.
Yeah. And, spotting, as you do. I mentioned a little while ago when we were talking about this, the Saab on the back of the truck.
Oh, yes. Is there an update for this, is there?
There is an update for this. The Saab has gone.
The Saab's gone.
Gone.
What about your truck? Is that still...
The truck is still there and hasn't moved, but it now has a different car on the back.
Okay. So when you say the truck hasn't moved, do you think it's moved to go and collect this new vehicle, or do you think
it doesn't? I have no evidence that it hasn't moved, but it is in exactly the same place.
Okay.
So it doesn't look like it's moved.
Right, go on then. So what's on board now?
Well, another car which is suspiciously clean and shiny. Only now it's not a Saab, it's a Vauxhall Vectra, which of course is interesting because underneath,
it's the same platform.
Saab is a Vauxhall Vectra. Yes, that's right.
Oh dear.
Vauxhall Vectra is there. It's it's a later model Vectra. It's the one that came after the one that had the mirrors that was kind of sculpted into the bonnet. Do you remember those?
Oh, I do. Here you go. This is really sad. I was at the London Motor Show when that was the first Vectra when it got released.
That was the first Vectra, yes. So what's on it must be a Mark II, yeah.
And we went to the Vauxhall stand and we had a look at it, and we got the little pack from the man, and it had. You'll like this as well, because this would have been 95, 96, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And in the pack was a CD-ROM.
Classic.
But the sticker on the CD-ROM was a bird's eye shot of the wing mirror.
They were very proud of it then.
They were, and that was its only redeeming feature.
That was the best bit of the car. Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone can be agreed on that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Anyway, it's not one of those. It's the next one. And again, it looks in really good nick. It's nice and shiny and clean, but it's strapped to the back of this truck. And it's been there because I've seen it a few times, and it's been there for another week, 10 days probably.
Mm.
Just strapped to the back of it again. I cannot work out what's going on there.
Didn't we? Either you or I looked it up.
You did.
Neither the truck or the Saab had an MOT.
No, that's right.
I can only assume the Vectra is lacking as well. Then
I haven't checked, but yes, I would imagine. Otherwise, why would it be on the back of the truck rather than on the road? But it's a bit iffy.
What you say is if it's in reasonably good condition, why are these cars being plonked on the back of it and just sort of left? Where are they going?
Yes. Well, that's quite. Where are they coming from?
Well,
the mystery continues.
Knowing the area where you've spotted it, I mean, probably. I'm sure it was fine and reputable.
Oh, I'm not suggesting for a moment that there's anything untoward going on. No, I'm sure it's all perfectly above board. We'll skim over the fact that it doesn't have any tax or an MOT and it's parked on the road. We won't worry about that. But I suppose technically the car on the back isn't on the road. That might be all right. But
I don't know if that's a grey area or not.
I don't know. No, that's a good question. I suspect it is a grey area. The Vectra is in fact grey. So
just to make it that bit more interesting.
We're getting a bit literal, isn't it? Yeah.
Ugh.
So there it was. Saab gone, Vectra arrived.
Oh dear. I mean, that's it. Well, no one's going to get excited about that.
They're not. Unlike the Saab, which is, something you might actually be, quite interested in and might be quite desirable. I can't see you being interested in a Vectra. No.
No one's got excited about it. No. Well, certainly not since touring cars and Vectras flying around in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah, that is the only time you'd find them interesting, though.
Yeah, otherwise it's fallen asleep. I remember being at school and it was Must have been quite late on in school, actually. And a friend of mine, he had an older brother, and he'd bought a Nova GSI and had that for a little while.
Okay.
So, and that, it was in wonderful conditions. I remember it was on an H plate, really, really nice condition. And he thought, no, it's time for an upgrade. So, yeah, his brother thought, well, I know what I'll do. I'll get a Vectra.
Oh, dear.
Why would you go from a wonderful hot hatch to... It was a gold Vectra as well.
Oh, lovely.
And he bought some hideous wheels for it. Like too big, really, really too big.
Too big, yeah.
And all you could see was, what is that? Oh, it's the tiny brake discs, highlighted by the fact that there are only 5 very small spokes.
Oh dear, that's bad.
Yes.
I worked for a company once that had a Vectra as a company car.
Oh dear.
And someone borrowed it one weekend. Someone who worked for the car, I don't mean it was stolen, somebody from the company borrowed it for a weekend and somehow managed to roll it.
It's because it's boring. He would have fallen asleep.
Oh, of course. Yes. Or it was so awful that he wanted to crash, to end it. It's like a self-harming thing.
Well, I said maybe it was just taking one for the team. Going, if I write it off, then no one has to endure this again. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
And then
it must die. Enough of this.
Just imagine his disappointment when the insurance company arranged for a whole new one to turn up.
No, they didn't. They replaced it with a Mark V Ford Escort Estate.
I mean, better, but not a lot.
Not a lot. No, indeed.
Oh, God.
Not a lot.
My dad had a Mark V. I mean,
yeah,
it was fine. But I tell you one thing, the central locking on that bloody thing.
Oh, was it bad?
Oh, I remember once he said, because he used to work away quite a bit, but it was a Friday morning, and he said, "Oh, I'll run you to school." Went out to the car. It was winter, so pop the key in the lock and turn, and then all of the funny noises and no unlocking because it all frozen. So the only option, if we wanted to use the vehicle in question, was climb in through the boot.
Of course.
Absolutely wonderful.
Oh, quality.
What's even better than that was the locks hadn't unfroze by the time I got to school.
Oh, no.
How you get through the boot,
out
dickhead?
Through the boot. That's a good look, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the way to arrive.
Absolute tit.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I can't blame my dad for that. That's just...
No, he didn't build the car.
No. But
But he did buy it.
I think that was a company car, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think he parted with actual money for it.
No, I think that's best. Yeah.
Yes. No,
Yes.
Dreadful thing.
Well, on the subject of dreadful Fords, or at least inexplicable Fords, or at least Fords I had forgotten existed.
Well, where's this going?
Something else I spotted on a walk this week. Not seen it before, so I don't think it's not been around where I've been walking, but a Mark 2 or 3 Ford Focus. Mm-hmm. Not unusual, you might say.
No.
Plenty of them around. This was the convertible. I'd forgotten Ford did a convertible Focus.
Oh, for the love of God. Yeah, it's the one with the folding roof, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Metal hardtop folding roof. I had completely forgotten it existed, but it was parked by the side of the road, dark red with a black interior. And I approached it from the rear, and I thought, that's a funny looking thing. What is that? And then it suddenly dawned on me. Oh, yeah, they did do one of those, didn't they? I don't think it was a big seller.
It wasn't a massive seller. No. And this is a strange fact to remember, but I remember Auto Express gave it 1 star.
That was very kind. But I know someone who's got a Golf convertible, but the later one that was very much like the Focus in that they gave it a bit of a boot.
Was that the Golf one, or was it an EOS?
Oh, it may have been an EOS, actually. Yeah. Again, not a big seller, I don't think.
No, I tell you what, as well about that Focus. I use the words very loosely. Styled by Pininfarina.
No.
Hmm.
No, that's not possible.
Yeah, if you look on the 3/4 behind the door, the panel down by the wheel arch, you got the Pininfarina badge.
But it must have been the work experience boy, surely. It's not a looker.
No. And it's one of those ones, if you look at the side profile, it's very, very awkward. But you look at it and go, is the boot bigger than the bonnet?
It's close, isn't it? It's close. It's a very strange thing. To have taken a car that actually was reasonably proportioned and not, bad looking for a mass market car, and then do that to it. And it's all wrong. But I had completely forgotten they ever did one. You see so few of them.
Well, it's best to block it out.
Yeah, I'm going to get some therapy and try and that and the Vectra in one walk. Was a rough day.
Oh dear, yeah, that's not automotive treats, is it at all?
No, you don't need that. Put me right off.
No, you're scraping the barrel there, mate.
But then I did see a Jaguar S-Type, which cheered me up a little bit.
Oh yeah, well you have a soft spot, well sometimes soft spot for S-Types.
Yes, I do. I do. Yes, it's a controversial opinion, but I quite like the S-Type, much as I quite like the Rover 75. But we've discussed that at great length before.
Well, I think both fine choices, to be honest.
Here's something I found out recently. Did you know Ian Callum had a hand in the Rover 75?
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't until recently, but apparently he did. Particularly the estate version, the Tourer. Apparently he did the back end of it. It's kind of like when you get an uncredited actor in a film, some big actor who does a cameo, but they won't have their name on the credits. Apparently his name is not anywhere on it, but he did help out the guy who designed it, and he did the back end just as like a one-off job.
Oh, okay.
And he looks at it now, and the only thing he's got a problem with is the chrome strip down the sides. He said it's not needed. It's extra.
Well,
it's too much, and it shouldn't be there. But he didn't do that bit.
I suppose, mind you, there's plenty of chrome kicking about on those.
Oh yeah,
they'd love a bit of that.
They love. Well, it was all about the chrome, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, apparently Ian Callum designed the back end of the Rover 75 Tourer.
Pop that in the useless facts, but I like that enormously.
Yes, that goes in the pervy facts file.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, we'll keep a bit of that. You've been on about your lockdown stroll updates. I remember I mentioned I spotted a 205.
You did, yes.
I don't have a huge update on it, but I do have a vintage for you now.
Oh, right.
It was on an M plate, and it was a Mardi Gras.
Blimey.
Yes, there you go. So that's... and it's... I did a quick check. It's MOT'd. It's in use.
Blimey.
It's not in tip-top repair, but it's usable. And people are using it. So fair play.
Well, on the subject of all Peugeots that people are using, I saw, again, on this same walk, it was a weird day, a Peugeot 405 Estate.
Christ.
With a load of ladders on the roof. Roof rack, loads of gubbins in the back. It looked like someone was, like a tradesman was using it, a painter and decorator or someone like that was actually using it.
Well, as long as it doesn't rot away, that'll keep on chugging.
It will. Mechanically solid, absolutely. It'd be the bodywork that would let that down, but it looked really tidy. But as I say, with all the stuff on it, it really looked like somebody was dailying it for work, for a business.
Fair play.
Yeah.
I bet that was one of those agricultural diesels as well, wasn't it?
It was a bit chuggy.
Oh, yeah. I bet, a bit of the ugga-dugga.
There was a good clatter with it. Yes. As it chugged past. Yeah,
that's fine. That just means it's working.
Not billows of smoke out the back, though, so fair play.
Okay, well, yeah, that engine will carry on. That's
the engine will, yes.
Yeah, that'll last all of us.
The rest of it, I'm not so sure about. But no, there it was.
Very good. I like that. I did have another spot the other day actually, and it was not looking healthy. This particular example,
Right.
it was matte black with a red roof, and it's a vehicle that I have not seen in a long time. It was a Vauxhall Midi camper van.
Blimey. Yeah, I know the one you mean. Yeah,
and it had the grotty bull bars on the front that a lot of them had as well.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
It was not a good example. I'm not convinced it's in working order.
Right. It wasn't operating then.
No, I didn't have time to have a look at plates and MOT history, but I'll on the next stroll I'll head in that direction again.
Very reminiscent of the Toyota Hiace.
Oh yeah. There's certainly similarities there.
Another one used to be everywhere, but you don't see them anymore.
And unless you've got a friend called Phil who had one for a while.
Of course.
You forgot he had one of those, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Well, again, the therapy had helped block it out.
It's fine. Well, you didn't even ever get in it. That was a flat out refusal.
I absolutely no, but he did bring it round and park it on my driveway once.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Dawn was quite concerned it was going to leak everywhere. But I don't recall that it did, at least. Well, Phil might have, but I don't think the van did.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what, there's a funny one about leaking on driveways. It was Ben's Mustang.
Well, that's not a total shock now, is it?
It's not. And the story in question was, I believe his neighbours were going on holiday. I'm sure they were doing something to the house or having some work done, which meant they needed their driveway empty while it was going on. And conveniently, it was while their neighbours were on holiday. And he asked the neighbours, "Would you mind if I pop the Mustang on your driveway while you're away?"
Okay.
And they said, "No, not at all, not a problem." But the guy said, "It obviously leaks. Do you mind just bunging some cardboard under it or something like that?" And he said, "Yeah, not a problem. Would have done that anyway. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
not an issue." So
fair enough.
Ben popped out. I think he was using it as his daily then.
Truth.
And he decided, I think it was a Tesco's run.
60s Mustang.
Well, I mean, fortunately, his commute is on train, so it's not like he was driving it to work. But it was
okay.
If he needed to go to the shops, it was still take a Mustang.
It was the Stang, right? Okay.
So yeah, he popped to Sainsbury's or Tesco's or whatever it was, and came back and thought, well, I'll bung it on their driveway now. Saves me a job.
Okay.
And he popped it on there and sort of, oh, no, better straighten that up, bit of manoeuvring. And the power steering pump went, I'm just going to shit myself. Emptied the fluid just all over the driveway.
Oh, no.
No little bit of cardboard's going to deal with that.
No. Oh, no. Go and get a bucket of sand.
They had to get industrial on that, and I think they even had people out to deal with it.
Oh, dear. So that cost him quite a lot in parking fees then.
Yeah. An awful lot of cash was spent on remedying the situation, which
repairing his neighbour's driveway.
And it was a nice brick one as well. So that
easy.
Got everywhere.
So easy to deal with. Yes.
Oh, ruined it. After a Twitter post the other day that made me think that's the basis of an excellent topic. What, if any, I'm making an assumption here, but I think you'll have some contenders. What are your favourite concept cars?
Ooh, you've done a thing there, haven't you? I'm not going to be able to remember the name of it now.
Okay. Oh well, I'm pleased to see there's one on the list. That's the main thing.
There is certainly one on the list. Yeah, and you won't be surprised which manufacturer it comes from.
I think it's a Jaguar.
Do you think it might be a Jaguar?
Before you say it, I'd quite like to have a guess.
As to which one it might be.
Yeah, I'd really like to try and pin it down.
Please do.
Have you found the one in question?
I have just Googled it and found its actual name. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have a punt on this and say it's a modern one, and it's a CX-75.
No.
Oh, right. Well, we'll come
Incorrect.
back to
Now
that.
I know why you've chosen that one.
We'll come back to that one.
We'll come back to that. That's a whole thing in itself. No, that's not the one I was thinking of. No, the one I'm thinking of was a saloon.
Oh, go on then.
It was codenamed the B99.
Oh, this is a new one on me. I'm going in.
Yeah, you go in and check that out. It was a concept. It was done for them by one of the big design houses.
Just found it. Bertoni.
Yeah, Bertoni, indeed. It was reminiscent. It had elements of XJ. It had elements of XJS. Yeah, truly, that is a car I wished they'd made. It was truly gorgeous.
I remember this concept now. Now you show it to me.
That would be, that pretty top of my list. I think that one as cars that should have been and never were. That is absolutely glorious.
That's really quite lovely.
That is my idea of that's a car. That's a car. I would go into a lot of debt.
I mean, it was a while ago, but it was quite late on in Jaguar history.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
I think that was when they having a bit of a revamp, because we'd already had the XF at that point.
We'd had the XF. I think we were about to get the new XJ, and I think they were teasing people. Now, the new XJ, the Callum XJ, was 2010, I think.
Yeah, I think you could be right, actually.
That came out, and I think, I'm just trying to see. This one, oh no, I tell a lie. This concept was from 2013. So they had done the XJ by that point.
It really should. You're right. It should have been made.
Yeah, that should have been the new XJ. That should have been the new XJ.
I'd forgotten about this one. Excellent choice.
No, very good. Very good.
I'm not asking you to just pick one though. So you can come up with some other contenders.
I can do some more. Right. Okay. I'm going to have a think.
Yeah. When I wrote it down on my list, I'd said concept cars. So
I've got another one. I've got another one.
Go on then.
Got another one already. This one's bang up to date. This is bang up to date. This is from Honda. It was launched. Sorry, it wasn't launched. It was never launched. It was unveiled alongside what has become the Honda E, the little hatch.
Yeah.
And alongside that, they showed a sports car, which I believe was inspired by the 2000 GT. And it was called the Honda Sports EV concept. It was an all-electric, which they've never made, and everybody wants them to.
I think I do remember this. Yes, like you say, that it does have a whiff of the 2000 GT.
Definitely.
It's a little bit naughty. Wrong Japanese brand. But
wrong brand, absolutely. But it does, doesn't it? It absolutely does.
The proportions and the lines, particularly those sort of humps over the wheel arch.
The fact that they showed it in white, of course, and we all know the car in white because of You Only Live Twice, but everybody wants them to make that. And I believe they've said they're not going to, and they went with the little hatchback instead, which is fine in itself. And I know what they're trying to do, they hark back to the old Civic, but the sports EV concept, again, that one does it.
Very, very nice. Excellent choice. I hadn't considered either. Brilliant.
Very good. Perfect. Yeah. Perfect.
No, that Honda. Now you show it. I think yes,
got it. They absolutely should make that. They absolutely should make that.
I mean, they've got a bit of form for that, because what was it? Can't remember the name of the bloody thing. CRZ.
That rings a bell.
That was 2010, I want to say.
Okay.
Fairly early on, but it was that little hybrid. Great looking car. Fun little thing. And that actually, obviously, that made the light of day. That was a production car. You think, it's got to be in the similar ilk, isn't it? Small, two-seater. So, yeah, I think, why wouldn't they make that sports EV concept? That's lovely.
They really should make that. That would sell in such colossal numbers. And the problem with the Honda E, which they are making, I think it's a lovely little thing, but it only does 130 miles range, and it costs over 30 grand. That's not competitive now.
No, it's. But I genuinely don't think that will hold back sales.
It probably won't. I mean, the Mini has the same problem. That only does 134 miles, I think. Although it is considerably cheaper than the Honda. So, fair dues. No, it probably won't. It would stop me buying it, but I am not the vast car buying public, so that's fair enough. If you're looking for a cute little city car and you are not that bothered about range, I think it's a lovely little thing. And it's a Honda, so it'll be built well and it'll work.
Yeah.
Hondas always do.
Yeah, I've had two Hondas. So I mean, I know we discussed one being my worst car. That wasn't really the fault of it being a Honda.
No, that was not the issue. No.
But my Civic was fine. They're absolutely fine cars. But one of these, I mean, the Honda E, like I said, that's got a bit of character to it, so you can see that being an endearing thing. And
I think so. It's got the Japanese cutesy thing going on in spades, but they absolutely should make the sports version. They absolutely should. It'll be a crime if we don't get that car.
Have you got any others that are on your mind?
There is one other, which is not. Again, it's a modern one, and I'm sure if I dug around long enough, I'd find some from the dim and distant. But the VW ID Buzz, which is their all-electric take on the original VW, well, the microbus as it was called in America, but the camper over here. I believe, I mean, it is only a concept up to this point, but I believe they are going to make it.
Yes, I've heard that. We're a year or two off, and it will be.
Yes,
I mean, it's bound to not be exactly what we've seen. I know exactly the one you're talking about.
You know the one I mean. Yeah, you know the one I mean.
But it makes so much sense because you may as well hark back to your heritage there because it's an ideal platform for it.
Well, and they're still so popular, and the number of people that do camper conversions from VW vans. VW themselves are missing a trick by not producing a camper. I mean, they'll kind of there is a huge market around. There's companies all over the place turning VW vans into campers. And have been for years. Westphalia and the Devon conversions that used to be around, very, very popular. Yeah, I think VW should do that themselves, and if they can do it on their new all-electric platform, then yeah, why not?
Definitely, yeah. No, another good shout.
So a couple of modern ones there, and a slightly older one, but those are the three that immediately come to mind. Yes,
because when I spotted it, I started going on a bit of a rummage for some cars that I remember.
Yeah,
and there are a couple from the 90s that were a bit of a standout.
Okay,
the first being possibly the best looking Lamborghini that was never made. That was you may remember it was the Lamborghini Cala. I'm not entirely sure that's how it's pronounced. It was the Cala.
Oh, okay.
And it was meant to be the original V10 Lamborghini.
Oh, I see.
Well, no, I say that actually. There was a concept that predated it actually. Neither of which made it to the light of day until we got to the Gallardo.
I was going to say it looks quite Gallardo-ish. There's also sort of elements of McLaren F1 about it, especially the back end. Interesting. A smaller Lambo.
Yes, and I mean it was one of those.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
I remember it entered my consciousness because it was in Need for Speed 2.
Okay, right. Okay,
and I remember looking at it and going, "Good God, what is it? I want it." And
right, you found it didn't exist.
Found it didn't exist. I found it in car magazines because it was. I think in the game. I don't even think it was. I'm not sure it was even listed as Lamborghini. I think it was listed as Ital Design.
Okay,
but it was a Lamborghini concept.
Yeah, it was done for them.
And this may be way off, but like I said, it was from another concept, because Lamborghini toyed with the V10 idea, I think, in late 80s, which was this is a bit I might get wrong, the P140 concept.
Okay.
Which was very 80s in its styling. But
again,
never,
isn't it? Yeah.
Never came to light of day.
Okay, interesting.
And I think both cars, both that P140 and this Carla, they both suffered from a kind of odd rear end.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah, they are a bit peculiar at the back. Yeah,
it's not only sort of the rear of it, as in the sort of lights and exhaust and all that. It was the height of it as well.
Yeah,
I've got a feeling there was a packaging issue, and I think there possibly was a gearbox underneath the engine.
Oh, that is going to make it quite tall, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I might be wrong on that. That's going from a very weird old.
There were a lot of cars of that era that had big back ends.
Yeah, because you remember again in the similar sort of visually a similar sort of thing. This obviously the car I'm going to mention made it. Do you remember the Cizeta V16?
Ooh, you might have got me there. No, I'm not sure I do.
Because I think, while classed as a production car, not very many were ever made.
Right.
And I still think you can buy one. I still think you can contact them and get one.
Have one.
Because
I've just looked it up. Yeah, again.
An incredibly 90s thing.
That's got a real Zonda feel to it.
I think it was a design by Gandini.
Okay.
And it came off the back of someone who used to work at Lamborghini.
Right.
So much so, I think the V16 engine was 2 Lamborghini V8s essentially joined together,
glued together. Right. Okay. Yeah. Certainly
because it's got a whiff of the Diablo about it as well.
It does. Yeah, it does. The back of it almost has a slight BMW M1 feel to it.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you say,
which of course is a concept that a car that perhaps should have stayed as a concept, but
controversial.
Very yes, controversial. Because wasn't that a tie-up with Lambo, the M1? Wasn't it? It was not meant to be a BMW. It was designed for.
Yes,
is that right? Or have I made that up?
No, you've not made that up. There was definitely a Lamborghini tie-up on that.
Yeah, I think there was. It was meant to go racing, but by the time it was ready, they changed the rules and it didn't qualify anymore or something, and it was basically an enormous cock-up.
Yeah, that was it. I'm sure it was, like you say, meant to be racing. It was going to be like a homologation special type thing, and that was it.
By the time it was ready, they couldn't race it because they changed the regulations, and yeah, it was a bit of... So when I say perhaps shouldn't have been, I don't mean anything against the car itself. It's just the whole way it came into being was a bit of a balls up.
But it did end up going racing.
Did it?
Yes.
Not as intended, but...
Not as intended. I'm sure, again, this may be way off, but I think it ended up being a one-make series.
Well, they invented their own race series so they could race it. Okay.
I'm sure that was a thing.
You might well be right. Yes, you might well be right. Yeah,
some lovely things.
Very lovely. You've picked some real obscure choices there. I'm impressed.
My next one is a bit more. Well, it's from a mass market brand, and this is one that I remember all of the press about it at the time. I'm sure there was even a photo shoot at Le Mans. I was young enough to be just going, why is this not a thing? And my dad telling me they're not going to make it. I was so angry. That was the Ford GT90.
Ooh,
absolutely wonderful.
Oh, I've seen this. Yes. Okay, I didn't know what it was called, but I know the one you mean now. Yeah. It doesn't look right with the Ford oval on the front, does it?
Just brilliant. every shape about that thing. So it still appeals to the child in me. That is ridiculous.
It is the car you would have drawn aged 7. I think. Yeah.
And I just remember being so cross that it
when
was
you
never
were told that they were never going to do it. Yeah.
So much
that is an unusual thing for Ford, isn't it? That very of its time. Very of its time.
Yeah, incredibly 90s. And then think, I mean, ultimately they got round to doing the GT recreation.
Yes, of course.
Mid 2000s,
which were wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was lovely.
I really like those
supercharged V8s when they were just a bit more sensibly sized.
They were terrific. I really like those. Yeah. I mean, there's a few there's a few knocking around now on eBay and whatever, but still silly money.
Not for us.
No, not for the likes of me and you, I'm afraid.
No, and all the tremendous press from Mr. Clarkson owning one.
Well, the press started off tremendous.
He was so excited. Has it arrived yet? Nope. Then it arrived and never worked. So, oh dear.
It was late. It cost more than it was supposed to. It kept breaking. Yeah, that was it was a bit of a disaster, that car, wasn't it, for him?
It was. But I mean,
but he still loved it.
No, that I was just going to say the same thing. It was, no matter how much of a cock up it was still he still had that sort of feel that it was brilliant for him.
It was perfect for him, actually. It fitted him very well. I always thought, and I really like those. I have one in my diecast collection. I have a red GT40, but they were done at the right time. They were absolutely brilliant. I mean, I know that subsequently we've had another one now, but I thought the first one was very true to the original. I know it was a bit bigger.
Well, that's it. Yes, but
it had to be to make it usable. But
that's it. Only small people could fit in the original one. I mean, that's why we ended up with that kind of double bubble effect on the roofs. That was so people could get in it and have helmets on
so
it.
People could actually get in it and take it racing. So they had to make the new one a little bit bigger, but it was all nicely proportioned and it worked. I thought it was really good. Really good that Ford did that.
Yeah, I mean, and the very latest one, I mean, I'm not as much of a fan of that one.
No, I'm not. I think it looks less like what it started with.
That's it, and the whole thing of getting it back racing again was a bit of a farce as well.
Yes, it was. Yeah,
because at the time when it actually got back into Le Mans, it was questionable whether you could call it a production car, and it won that first time out. And you think, well, this is just a bit. It was almost. I mean, at Le Mans, the top class of prototype cars. And you could accuse this at the time of being a full-on prototype car. It was ridiculous. I mean, it didn't win outright or anything like that, but it wiped the floor with the GT class that it was in.
Right.
And you think that this is sort of there's meant to be some sort of road concept going on here, but don't know.
Stretching
and V6 as well. I'm all right.
Okay. Yeah.
If it's an American car, put a V8 in it.
Yes.
Don't tit about.
No.
I've got the right amount of cylinders back in your box.
No, you can't do that, can you? No, you can't do that. Interesting choices there. Very interesting. There is one other prototype I feel I should mention.
I'm curious. I've got a backup one here because you've not mentioned one that I think you will have should mention, really.
Oh, well, unless I'm about to.
Oh, go on then.
And that would be the DeLorean prototype.
Nope. Again, completely wrong.
Good. The DeLorean, of which I believe there were two, one of which still exists. And it was the car that John DeLorean used to try and sell the idea and get investment and get people involved. And it was really good by all accounts. It was everything that the production car should have been. It was mid-engined. It had a crash-resistant understructure. It had airbags. It was really, cutting edge. And one by one during the production process, Lotus threw out all the good things about it until you ended up basically with an Esprit with a stainless steel shell. Which is what you ended up with.
Yeah.
Yes. And a Renault engine. So, but the DeLorean prototype was really clever and could have been fantastic. If the production car had ended up anything like the prototype, it would have been fantastic. But sadly, it was not to be. One of them still exists. One of the original prototypes still exists. I believe it's in a museum in Ireland, I think. I'm just going to look that up because I might be talking. Yeah, might be talking complete bobbins.
I've definitely seen pictures of it. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because that's it becomes a slightly different topic of going. Well, yes, it became a production car, but there was a prototype that preceded it, and you think back to cars that made it into production, but their prototypes were more appealing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably happens quite a lot. It's actually in a museum in Pennsylvania, not Ireland. I was incorrect.
Missed slightly.
Yes, slightly off. Yes, slightly off.
No, that's fine.
It still exists. The original DeLorean prototype. Yeah, that is an interesting subject, isn't it? Cars that prototypes that did get made, but they were whittled down to such an extent, which is certainly true of the DeLorean.
Yeah, definitely. And a bit along the similar lines. Remember, we touched on it in another topic actually, but the XJ220.
Yeah. Again, that all went a bit wrong, didn't it?
Yeah. No V12, no 4-wheel drive, none of the scissor doors. It missed a bit. I mean, for me, it still hit by a mile. I love that thing. But
yeah, I think that's a lot of people do, don't they? But it isn't what was promised.
One car that made it into mass production and harked back to its prototype quite nicely, but I still think the design of the prototype just still wins out slightly for me. It was the original Boxster prototype.
Oh, okay.
I absolutely adore that thing.
Because the production Boxster, I've always thought, is a little bit unbalanced in the way it looks. I think the back end doesn't quite work.
Have a little look at that one, because
that up.
I remember that being in the car magazines at the time and thinking, yes, that is lovely.
Yeah, that does work better, doesn't it? I've just found a picture of someone who's turned a Porsche Boxster into a 356 Speedster replica. That's just pornography. Yes. So we're going to turn that off. But
because I mean, when you look at that Boxster, the prototype of it, there's so much in that I look at and think that puts me in mind of James Dean and the 550 Spider.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, it's there, isn't it? You may have. Yeah, that is interesting. That's Again, the production car's not as good as it.
It's not, and don't be wrong. I like a Boxster, but the prototype, and I get why they would have never have made it all the way through to the final car. But good heavens, it's a lovely little thing.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And it's interesting, isn't it? What starts off as the sort of idealistic design, and then the engineers get at it, and the accountants get at it, and the production people get at it, and then the management have to sign off on it, and it goes through all these processes, and it just sort of gets quite often, there's a lot of dumbing down goes on, isn't there?
Yeah.
You can't do that because that's, it's going to cost twice as much. You need to use this version of the part that we've already got because it's going to be cheaper, and things like that. A lot of part sharing, and how does it fit into the range, and how are we going to market it, and how you've got this curve on the back that means we're going to have to stamp new panels for it, and if you don't have that curve, we can use the panels we've already got. Yeah, there's a lot of that goes on, and it all gets whittled down, or you'll never get that past the safety legislation or something like that.
It's exactly it. But I mean, we look back at it now and go, to be honest, it's probably the car that saved Porsche.
Yes, it probably is. That's probably fair to say. Yeah.
I mean, they were not in a good state, and that car transformed them.
Well, it was accessible, wasn't it?
Mm.
That's the key, and they didn't really have anything that was accessible up to that point. They'd
No,
become
that's it.
they'd become the rich man's toy, and you certainly can't be mass market if you're selling a rich man's toy.
Well, that's it. And you think, well, at the time, it all had that yuppie thing about it.
Yeah.
And then you've got the colossal market crash, and an overnight Porsche went, oh, bollocks.
Yeah. You could just hear them. Yes.
Yeah. And that car really did it for them. I mean, I remember reading by the time it came out in, what was it? I think released to the concept probably 93, 94, something like that, and then a real car by 96. People were selling their place in the queue. They were tripping over themselves to get these cars.
I'm trying to think if any more sort of homegrown ones. Jaguar are not. Well, I mean, they haven't really had the money for that sort of thing, have they?
No, I mean, I've got two waiting in the wings, which lead beautifully into Bond.
Oh, well, I feel you should then.
Obviously, we had the brief mention at the beginning there where I thought you were going to go for the.
Yes, the CX.
Yes, I thought you were going to go there, but you didn't.
I didn't.
Which also suggests the DB10 as well.
Yes, which never got made. Was only ever in the film. We got the DB11, which is very, very close to it.
Yeah, there's certainly similarities.
But the DB10, never happened. That was, I believe, the first time car had been made for a Bond film that then never went into production. I mean, the Toyota GT, the 2000 GT, technically at the time, that was the only one, but it did later go into production. The DB10 never did.
It's nice that it was held for them.
But what would Aston Martin be without Bond?
Yeah, but it was just an interesting thing that they did. They sort of took a whole model number out just for that.
Just for Bond. Yeah, I mean, that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I mean, several of their models in the past are so associated with Bond. But like I suppose building a few is actually not that difficult. It's mass producing.
Like you say, it heavily influenced the 11, and you just get the feeling it
was an 11 prototype, wasn't it?
Yeah,
really?
that's it. It's the one that you'd never get past pedestrian safety and all that sort of caper.
Yeah,
so you may as well showcase it in a film.
On the subject of Aston Martin and prototypes, I read a little while ago that the DB7 was in fact an early Jag F-Type concept. Jaguar had been planning a smaller, tighter sports car for quite some time, because the XK was always a GT car. It was always a cruiser.
Yes,
you wouldn't describe the XK, certainly the 90s one, as a sports car as such. No. It was a cruiser, and I saw an absolutely mint XKR this afternoon. Nearly had a trouser accident. It was British Racing Green. It was absolutely immaculate. I can have one of those. Apparently, I've been given permission to have one of those.
You must get on that immediately.
Make a note. I read that the DB7 was actually an early F-Type concept that Jaguar said, no, we're not going to do this now, or Ford decided, no, you're not going to do this now. But Aston are struggling, so let's chuck it over there and see what they can do with it. And out of it came the DB7.
That's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's entirely possible, because wandering around the Jaguar Heritage Centre, you see so many things that could have been.
Yeah, indeed.
They've had several stabs where you're thinking, oh, should we do an F-Type? And it never.
Yeah, it's been on the cards for a long time, much longer than people realise. Yeah, and although the DB7 eventually shared a lot of its underpinnings with the XJS,
yes.
The overall, and it was the first car, I believe, designed by Ian Callum entirely by himself. I believe it was the first car that he designed in his career. It was entirely his design, was the DB7. I mean, what a way to start.
That's a strong start. I'll give him
It
that.
really is. But yes, I believe it was an early F-Type concept.
Because I mean, it's quite interesting. And you think the DB7 as well. Is that the first, what you'd probably call mass-produced Aston? Everything preceding that was still very much hand-built.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it was the first one, I believe, under Ford ownership.
I might say that the Vantage and the Virage and the V.
Oh, you might be right. Yeah,
550 and 600. I think they may have been involved in the transition, because sometimes you look at them and go,
yeah,
there are some Ford bits in there, and I've got a feeling that's a Range Rover steering wheel. And
well, certainly the DB7 has a Ford-tastic center console, but yeah, you might be right. Actually, the tail end of the Vantage may have been Ford. I think it already existed when Ford took over.
Yeah, I think so.
Certainly, the DB7 I think might have been the first new model.
Yeah, first full one. Yeah, I think you're right on
Ford
that.
ownership. I think that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I mean, a truly glorious car that can be had for not silly money still. 12 to 15 grand will get you quite a decent DB7 these days. And for an Aston, that's not that's not bad.
No, I remember my friend Ben was toying with one.
I have several times. That'll go on the list of cars that we wish we don't, but never have. Yes,
no,
the DB7 is still on the list.
He got to a point where he had a budget, and he'd whittled down a few cars, and I remember, obviously he ultimately ended up with his Mustang.
Yes.
But on the list, I remember he had a BMW 635.
Oh, solid choice.
A DB7. Ferrari 360.
Okay.
All of these were attainable within his budget.
Yeah.
But he made some inquiries about looking after these cars.
Yes, buying it is only the first part. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to him for thinking ahead and not just getting excited.
No, that's good. Yeah, no, that's very sensible. That's very sensible. Yeah,
and obviously, immediately that was DB7 and Ferrari 360 gone.
They are. Yeah, they are going to be a bloody nightmare. Yes.
Yes, I mean that's ultimately why I ended up with a Mustang. I mean, it's
a 60s Mustang. Interesting.
It's uncomplicated.
Yeah, true. You can fix it with a hammer and some string, I suppose. Yeah, that's true.
Yes, yeah, that's.
It's not got complicated 90s electronics in it, has it?
No. I want the listener. I want to have a caveat for the listener going, by all means, buy one, but good heavens, think about you might have to service it at one point in its life.
Get it checked over, and certainly with the Aston, at some point, all the electrics are just going to die mysteriously. So, you have to remember with the DB7 and the XK of that era as well, they were both based on very old designs.
Very old, yeah. Like you say, you come back to
XJS. Yeah, it's a 30-year-old design, when they started. So you have to, they were both built to a price.
And you think that DB7 that hung on for a while?
It did, because they ended up with the GT, didn't they? With all the body kit on it, and
it looked a bit vulgar at that point.
They'd gone, they were trying a bit too hard.
Oh, and it ended. They shoehorned a V12 in, didn't they?
Oh, did they?
Oh, good heavens! I'm going to have to check my facts.
Oh, you need to check that, I think, chap. I was not aware if that is true.
According to this, it was a
fit, would it?
It was. They ended up with V12s in the end of their life.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. That must have been quite a feat of packaging to get it in there.
V12? Where, good heavens. Well, I suppose, like you say, XJS underpinnings, they squeezed one in there. So.
Oh, true. That was a V12. Yes, well, one of my friends is a V12. Yeah. I suppose that's true. I didn't know that. Didn't know they'd ever done a 12. That must have been a thirsty old thing.
Well, no one's going to buy it for fuel economy, are they?
No, I suppose not. The XK was never a 12, was it? That was V8.
It was always 8, and then it ramped up to supercharged.
The
and all that
supercharged
kind
V8 on the R version.
Mm.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. But now you mention it, that it was never a 12. You think, oh, that's a surprise, actually.
That is a surprise. Again, that's a model that hung on for quite a long time. And then, of course, they did the facelifted XK, which was smaller and quite a different animal.
Well, that was when that happened. That was back to a Callum design by then, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, and they were well into the new XJ era by then. Yeah,
because I remember do you remember the sort of the sort of baby blue metallic, the concept of it, of that particular XK, and everyone was like, "Oh, if it looks like that, I'll take my hand off." And it was virtually identical by the time it came out. You think, good heavens, round of applause for Jaguar.
I do remember that. The facelift XK is gorgeous, and I have looked at those seriously because they are, again, the non-R versions you can get for very reasonable money now, just a few grand. And as I said, I do have permission to have one of those, so that's
ridiculous. I mean, if you look at those, you end up in what do we call it? The James Blunt situation where we live, having a semi by the sea.
Something along those lines. That it's just pure filth on your driveway, isn't it? Well, I think that's probably enough of that for this week. Check us out on all the various social medias and things. Thank you very much for listening.